Selection Sunday is officially here in just under half an hour. We will find out where your Texas Tech Red Raiders will be dancing in the big dance. I am RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast, and well, we're going to have a lot of fun live reaction to where Texas Tech will end up in the NCAA tournament. We'll discuss that matchup at least a little bit early on and just a little bit of everything else in terms of which matchups stand out in the NCAA tournament. I appreciate y'all spending some of your Sunday afternoon with me here. If you haven't already, because I know a lot of y'all are watching on YouTube, be sure to like the video if you're excited to see Texas Tech men's basketball and really just have them play in the first round of the NCAA tournament. I forgot how much fun it was to have a team that you either cover, root for, have some interest in, be in the greatest sports tournament in the world. And yes, I mean that over obviously the World Cup and everything like that. I love March Madness, and I'm sure y'all do too. So really want to start it off with that. And there's a lot to discuss, and we'll go through a ton of metrics for Texas Tech here in just a second. But before we do that, I want to hear from you guys in the comments over on YouTube, and let me know on Twitter. I know there's a ton of people watching on Twitter right now as well. Let me know where you are watching from and also what seed you think the Red Raiders will end up having in the NCAA tournament. It's the last time I really get to ask that. I've asked it a few times over on the Back to 12 podcast channel in terms of, you're leading into it, you're going into the Big 12 tournament. Where do you think they land if they win, against BYU? They don't beat Houston. Where do you think they land? I think that there's a lot of options here, and we will discuss the latest bracketology and the latest metrics. The last metrics Texas Tech will have in terms of handing into the committee. This is what the committee will look at when it comes to Texas Tech in their metrics, okay? And now, obviously, they've looked at it a little bit beforehand, but now this is it. All the games are about to be done. I believe there's only one game in college basketball going on right now, and it is Wisconsin-Illinois. Illinois is currently winning in that one 88-85, but that's not why we're here. So while y'all get the comments going, and again, let me know where you're watching from and let me know what seed prediction you've got for the Red Raiders. I'm going to go over some numbers in terms of what Texas Tech has in terms of their metrics as of today, because there's some interesting ones in the standpoint of some of these have gotten better. Some of them have decreased, but at the bottom of your screen, you can see it right there. And I just realized I probably should have put Sunday, but nonetheless, you get the idea. 27th in KenPom, 28th in net ranking, 28th in Bart Torvik in his rankings, and then 25th when it comes to basketball power index. Now, a couple other things you need to know. The net is there right there, but this is the resume that Texas Tech is providing to the committee. This is what the committee will look at outside of individual wins and circumstances involving those. But this is it right here in terms of key metrics the committee looks at. Net ranking, 27th in the country. You go 6-9 in quad one opportunities, and you have a 4-1 record in the quad two part of it. Now, you're 13-0 in terms of quad three, quad four wins, and then your strength of schedule is 26th best in the country. Your non-con strength of schedule, I think everybody knows by now, not too good in a lot of ways. It comes in at 311. Now, here in just a second, we will look at where some of the big bracketology sites put Texas Tech. And a little surprising to me, honestly, today, it seems like there's a consensus in terms of the bracketology, quote unquote, experts or whatever you want to call them. There's a pretty clear view of what they think Texas Tech should be. Does the committee agree? We'll talk about that here in just a second. I want to give a couple shout outs to the people watching. Let's see who we got here. We've got Nicholas. Can't wait to see our path to the Natty. Okay. 559 Viva. Slow down there, Nicholas. See, okay. Let's look at the bracket first, and then we can go from there. Okay. Chapa, he says, I think a 5 seed. What do y'all think? And then another 5 seed. That from Brian over on Twitter. We've got David with a 6 or 7. Alex says a 5 seed, maybe a 6, but BYU should not be above us. Also watching from Lubbock. Joseph says a 8 seed. That would be surprising to me, to be honest. If BYU gets a 4, maybe we get a 5. Otherwise, it's a 6. I think that that's something to consider for sure, Joseph, in terms of it feels like the most interesting dynamic from a Texas Tech perspective of like if you see BYU go first in a bracket in terms of maybe Texas Tech isn't in their region, that's going to give you a pretty good idea of what Texas Tech is going to be. So, for example, like Joseph says here, if BYU is a 4, then yeah, Texas Tech is probably a 5, maybe that first 6. But it's going to be interesting. Now, Frank, he says a 7. Joseph says he's watching from Lubbock, 5 or 6 seed. Watching from Maui. Okay, I see you. I see you. Then we've also got another 5 seed. We've also got our C. What's Twitter? Well, it is what it is. It's Twitter. Let's be real here. It's not the X app or whatever the people call that. No, it will always and forever be Twitter. Stop it with that crap. All right. 5 or 6 seed. We've got a 5 seed from Paul as well. Branson, Missouri. That from Marlene. Excuse me. And then she's watching from Branson, Missouri. That's cool. BYU a 5. Tech a 6. And then, yeah, we're live here, people. This is fun. Come join the comment section. Let me know on Twitter, too. I've got Twitter pulled up right here. I've also got, Selection Show pulled up on my laptop as well. And there's a lot to discuss here because I think, again, we've had the resume going down there at the bottom of your screen for a little bit in terms of what the committee will see when it comes to Texas Tech. Now, this is where things get interesting in the sense of where the Red Raiders are for, bracketology. And I'm going to let the resume go there and just talk out loud to you guys for this in the sense of where the latest bracketologists have Texas Tech, okay? According to ESPN, the Red Raiders will be a 5 seed in the East region. That's what their projections say. They will face off against UAB, the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and Kentucky would be the 4 seed in the East region. If Texas Tech was to win that first round matchup, the higher seed would be Kentucky, who they would face off in the round of 32. CBS also has Texas Tech as a 5 seed, but in the South region. The 12 seed in this one would be Tuskegee. I'm not going to lie to you. I did not know this university outside of basketball, and they haven't made the tournament or had a tournament win since probably your grandparents were alive. But that would be the 12 seed. And then Duke as the 4 seed. Now, Bracketville, 5 seed, East region, against the 12-seeded McNeese State, the Fighting Will Wades, a team that lost 23 games last year before he showed up. Now they went 31-3. Pretty damn good team. The 4 seed in that one, a team I want nothing to deal with. And you saw them today in their conference championship. I want nothing to do with Auburn. Nothing. Okay. And then Bracket Metrics, which kind of brings all of these bracketology sites together and kind of implements them into, a matrix. Has Texas Tech as a 5 seed, but the second to lowest 5 seed in there, as well as their latest update for Texas Tech. Now, let's see here. Let's see what we've got here. We've got the Sneaker Man, 5 or 6. We've got Brady saying, hoping for a 5, but also hope we are not at the ends of the earth, aka Spokane. Yeah, well, that's definitely a possibility. West Texas Mark, hoping everyone is healthy and can play. Yeah, we'll talk about that here in just a second in terms of the latest for Darion Williams and Warren Washington on that front. Renee asked, who had Tech in the NCAA at the beginning of the season? Crazy. We are talking seeding on Selection Sunday. What a season so far. Yeah, I thought they'd be a bubble team. Really, I truly did. I thought they'd be a bubble team, and honestly, probably on the outside of the bubble, just from the perspective of it is difficult to win in year number 1 of any era, let alone the Grant McCasland era, but also in the toughest conference in America. But the job that this team has done on the hardwood and also the X's and O's perspective from the coaching staff, phenomenal. I mean, you're literally looking at, we're over here debating on if they're going to be a 5 or a 6 seed. It's a great point, Renee, in the sense that if someone would have told you this in the beginning of the season, you probably would have laughed at them. In terms of a 5 or a 6 seed, maybe you had them squeaking into the NCAA tournament, but realistically, I don't think very many people had Texas Tech right here, right now, but that's where they are, and you will be able to watch your Red Raiders in the first round of the NCAA tournament on either Thursday or Friday. And oh, by the way, you can come hang out with me. I will be doing a live stream of the game with a live scoreboard on there. I'll be doing live play-by-play. I'll be joined by a special guest who I might just let you know who it is here later on in the live stream, but stay tuned for that. So if you want to come hang out with the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube that, well, isn't a university account, it's right here. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell to stay in the know on Texas Tech men's basketball all year long, and come hang out with us during that first round matchup for your Red Raiders on either Thursday or Friday. All right, back to the comments section we go. Grant has done wonders with the team and injuries. Yeah, truly. I mean, and there's a lot of buy-in there too, you know. I think people forget about the human element of this a lot of times in terms of athletes and just athletics in general. But there is a human element to this in the sense of you lost one of your starters in Devin Cambridge before even 1 second of the clock came off in Big 12 play. Okay. What does that do psychologically to a team? You know, there's those old, coach sayings where it's like, next man up. You know what I mean? Next man up. It's like, well, yeah, but there's also a psychological aspect to it. So you got to remember that as well. But the buy-in from these guys and really just gutting it out a lot of times, remember that illness in the middle of the season there where they were just gutting through games, like really just trying to find a way to do something. And then you can tell when they got back healthy, they started to hit their stride a little bit. And really, over the past, 3 weeks, they've been pretty damn good. That's big. That's big for Texas Tech. Now, looking at it right now, well, there you go. The last college basketball game of the year in terms of not in the NCAA tournament is complete. Illinois just beat Wisconsin for the Big Ten title. So you have that. Let's see here. Let's talk about injuries because that's obviously one of the reasons y'all are here. Darion Williams. If y'all didn't hear what Grant McCasland had to say after the post-game presser in terms of Darion Williams and his availability in the NCAA tournament, he was very emphatic in the sense of, he should be ready to go whenever that is in terms of Thursday or Friday. So that's big for Texas Tech. Now, on the Warren Washington front, that's where things become a little bit more interesting. I still think since he's been practicing for the past, week, 10 days, whatever it is, maybe even a little longer now, maybe 2 weeks, he's going to have a potential role on this team in terms of him coming back, but not being that Warren Washington that we saw in the sense of, okay, he's not going to go out there and play 35 minutes. Let's be real about that. It's probably going to be in that probably tops 15, but Grant McCasland's going to pick and choose when he uses them in terms of situation, in terms of maybe RJ gets in foul trouble, and this is a good 4-minute stretch for Warren to go in there and help spell, a run that the other team is going on. I think that that's going to be the kind of situation you see. You're still going to see Robert Jennings. You're still going to see Ameli Alahu. But I do think in terms of the possibility of you and, everybody else seeing Warren Washington play for Texas Tech in the NCAA tournament, I do think that there is a much better chance in terms of, going out there, playing a limited role, but do not expect him to, play 30 minutes or whatnot. But I would be honestly kind of surprised if he doesn't play at this point, or at least gives it a shot in warm-ups and then they go from there. So that's kind of what I'm expecting right now. Let's see here. Patrick, do we want a 5 versus a 6 seed, the 5 curse? I don't know, man. I think you just take whatever you get in terms of that. I mean, players aren't going to care. They're just going to want to go out there and, really play the best that they can in that aspect of it. But I think from a seeding perspective, you probably want the 5 in theory from that perspective. But that is interesting to bring up in the sense of in the NCAA tournament, it feels like every year there's at least, 1, even 2 12 seeds beating a 5 seed. So it is what it is on that front. Justin says, thinking about TJ under Grant instead of Mark Adams is just going to make me cry. And then Mark right below says, Terrence Shannon just dropped 34. Yeah, he's a stud, man. I mean, it's hard to imagine him staying here long term just because of another coaching change and everything, if you think about it from his standpoint. But I'm happy for TJ, man, in the sense of him playing well, for sure on the court. Um, let's see. My favorite player is Chance McMillan. Yeah, he's great. I like this one. Connor, I'm not biased at all. I'm thinking a solid 1 seed, all jokes aside. Um, I've been watching your videos a little bit, and you're always fun to see. I appreciate you tuning in, Connor. John says, high 6. McCaslin came in and sent good players packing. I don't know about that. I mean, he got pretty good players. I think it worked out pretty well for him this year, I'd say. Stevie, San Diego State was a 5 seed last year. That's true. That's true. But it does feel like every year there's 1 or 2 teams that are a 5 seed that just lose. To answer your question, what time does the selection start? It starts here in about 14 minutes. Again, we'll have live reaction, discuss every bracket that comes out, because odds are Texas Tech probably isn't in the first region that they discuss, but maybe they are, and we'll just go right into talking about it right then. One more time, if you're watching on YouTube, which I know a lot of y'all are, you should like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. And if you're on YouTube or Twitter, whichever one you're watching on, let me know where you're watching from. Are you watching from Lubbock? You watching from DFW, Houston? Let me know, and I'll be sure to give you a shout out. Let me head on over to my Twitter right now because, well, I said I'd give some shout outs. Let me give some shout outs real quick. See if there is any over here. There isn't, but there's quite a few of y'all watching on Twitter. I see you. I see you right now. Over 500 of y'all watching on Twitter. I appreciate that. Let's see. We got somebody watching. We got Dizzy watching from Minneapolis. That's a fun little place. You can see the Jarrett Culver picture I've got right there with the outstretched arms. I need to get the Matt Mooney one. For those that haven't seen my interview with Matt Mooney over on the Scarlet and Black Insider, be sure to go check that out. Your first month is $1. You're not going to find any better coverage of the transfer portal for Texas Tech men's basketball. You're just not. So be sure to go head on over there and get your first month and talk about the NCAA tournament with a fun, engaging group of Texas Tech fans over there. Again, your first month is $1. You can't beat that. You just can't. You can go on my profile on Twitter if you want to look that up, and I've got it down there. All right, let's get to the actual shout-outs. Enough of me with the promos, right? YouTube in Lubbock, love to hear it. Alito, Fort Worth, love it. Patrick Keller, love it. That's where the in-laws are for me, so love to hear that. We've got somebody watching in Austin. We've got Corpus Christi. We've got Mexico City. Oh, bonjour. Just kidding. Hola. Watching from you H-Town. Sorry, it's a joke from one of my favorite podcasts. We've got another person watching in Lubbock, Kansas City. Love to see that. Actually, Patrick Mahomes was at the Dallas Mavericks game today. I don't know if y'all saw that. We got Georgetown. We've got Tulsa. We've also got another Kansas City. We've also got a Slayton, Texas. And then we've got John, of course, watching in America. There you go. And then we've got Alex out in Lubbock. Let's see if anybody is watching and where they're watching from. There we go. We've got a couple people from Lubbock over on Twitter, and then we've got one from DFW as well, specifically Plano. So there you go on that front. We got Lubbock, another one, and then Brady. This from Chappa. Will we move into the 5 seed with Florida losing? Florida did a sensational job in the SEC tournament. I think that they're probably in the same boat as Texas Tech. I wonder where they go on that front because they're in that same section of, I would have probably had Wisconsin in that same section, if I'm being honest, in terms of Texas Tech, BYU, Wisconsin. I think Utah State is kind of in that same similar region for Texas Tech in terms of seeding. And we're about to find out here in about, well, the selection show starts in 10 minutes. So y'all are going to want to hang around. Maybe we can get to 1,000 people watching here. We're well on our way, about 800 right now. So be sure to like the video, retweet it over on Twitter, and we'll go from there. All right, let's see here. We got Steamboat, Colorado. We got Odessa. We got Athens, Georgia. Love to see that. And then Ryan with a quick baseball update. Another lightning delay in Waco. And if it's called, we're losing in the 7th inning. Yeah, not a great weekend in terms of the weather. And then really these past like 36 hours for Texas Tech baseball on the field. But we'll focus on basketball here real quick. Let me go through some metrics again in terms of where I think Texas Tech could end up. And again, bracketology for the Red Raiders is a 5 seed in every major publication, ESPN, CBS, Bracketville. So that probably means Texas Tech is going to be a 6 seed. Just kidding. Maybe. I don't know. We'll find out here in just a second. But East region, South region, East region. If you ask me right now, Joe Lunardi has the most favorable one in terms of what you would like to see from the perspective of who's the 1 seed and other teams involved in it for the Red Raiders. I'm going to go look it up real quick. And here it is. So I'm just going to read through this Midwest bracket that Joe Lunardi just updated. And I guess he put Texas Tech in the East. He's been updating that stuff all day. But here we go. We've got Purdue as the 1 seed. Not too bad. Iowa State as the 2 seed. The 3 seed is Creighton. The 4 seed is Kentucky. And then Texas Tech comes in at the 5. Okay. The 8 seed that would match up against Purdue is Texas. And I'm not a person to say, nice things about Texas a lot of the time, but I think they'd match up pretty well against Purdue and have a shot to take them out because let's just face it, Purdue in March, that's not a great combination for them winning basketball games. We saw it last year. You saw it. We know what happened. Okay. So yeah, I think it's interesting from my perspective because I haven't given my opinion on where I think Texas Tech ends up seed wise. I think they might sneak in to a 5 seed, but I'm going to say a 6. I think they're going to be one of the top 2 6 seeds in the NCAA tournament. So they're probably most likely going to be in the Midwest or they're going to be in the South. And if you're in the South, you're probably playing Houston. Like, let's just be real. And if you're in the Midwest, that's probably Purdue. Now, East is going to be UConn. I think that that's going to be the most interesting aspect of this, though, from the standpoint of this. UConn is probably going to be the number 1 overall seed, I would guess. Houston, it's hard to live that down. I've always said that, the tournaments only help you. Okay, they only help you. But when you lose like you did on national television in the title game in terms of your conference, like Houston did, I still think they're a 1 seed, but maybe they don't get the number 1 overall seed. Okay, I think that might be UConn. Then I think it goes Houston. Then I think it goes Purdue. And then I think it's North Carolina, even though North Carolina lost to North Carolina State. How about that? Before the ACC tournament started, North Carolina State was 1,000 to 1 to win that. And they ended up winning 5 games in 5 days. Just a crazy, crazy story there. But from a Texas Tech perspective, I think, again, really what it comes down to is this. Do you want to have the opportunity to play at the American Airlines Center in Dallas on the second weekend? No guarantees. You got to win 2 games to get there, right? I think everybody knows that. But would you rather have that opportunity and more than likely have to face off against Houston in either the Elite 8 or the Sweet 16? Because that's the first time you can play a conference opponent in the NCAA tournament is on the second weekend. Or would you rather not have the option to play in Dallas and potentially play a number 1 seed in that region like Purdue? I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I just think it's whatever your preference is. Now, again, we're going to find out here in just a little bit in terms of what's going on because, well, we're only about 5 minutes away from Selection Sunday and that process actually starting, which should be just a ton of fun. And you can watch that on CBS, but be sure to keep your phone open and hang out with me on here for instant reaction. We'll talk about the game that the Red Raiders get, whether that's in the Midwest region, South region, wherever it may be. Okay. We'll talk about it all. Let me give a couple more shout outs here. We've got Gilbert saying, yeah, Purdue always chokes in March. It does seem that way. We got somebody watching in Raleigh, North Carolina. We've got John in Gainesville, Texas. We've got somebody watching in Denver. Bruce just said, I don't want to play Houston again this year. I do not blame you. I really don't. I don't blame you at all. Again, I think it's a personal preference at that point. Like, do you want to have the opportunity to play in Dallas? Or do you want potentially, if you do make the second round or the Sweet 16 second weekend, I should say, not play in Dallas, but maybe an easier matchup, right? And it really is a personal preference. If you ask me, I'd love to play in Dallas, but I'm more of a matchups guy. Like, you're going to win games in terms of matchups. But as we all know, sometimes matchups just go out the window in March. Like, they don't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. So it is what it is at that point. All right, we got 800 of y'all watching on YouTube. Really appreciate that. Over 100 or 800 of y'all on Twitter, excuse me. We've got just over 120 over on YouTube. If you haven't already on YouTube, be sure to like the video. And if you haven't already on Twitter, retweet the video, favorite the tweet. Come on. Let's get as many Texas Tech fans in here as possible. Selection Sunday, just minutes away from starting over on CBS. I know a lot of y'all already have them in here in terms of your prediction, but let's see here. We've got 5 seed from Ryan. We've also got a couple of other predictions in the sense of coming back up here. Let me see. Justin from Slayton, he says a 4 or a 5 seed for the Red Raiders. I would be pretty surprised if Texas Tech gets a 4 seed. Patrick says YouTube is the best format. Hey, I ain't going to lie. I love it. I love both, though. I'm not going to lie. Just wherever I can interact with Texas Tech fans and Big 12 fans, either or YouTube or Twitter, sign me the hell up. Just love interacting with you guys. So that's what it comes down to for me. All right. One more time. I'm going to put at the bottom of your screen here, just a reminder, subscribe over on YouTube if you want to come hang out with us for the first round matchup of the NCAA tournament. For your Red Raiders, we'll have a live scoreboard. I'll be doing play-by-play. I'll be joined by a special guest who I may reveal to y'all here in a little bit. If we get over 1,000 live viewers in here, I'll probably do it. I'll probably let you guys know. So again, the easiest way to get that information out of me, like the video, hit that subscribe button. And if you're over on Twitter, be sure to retweet and favorite this video. All right. Going to put the resume that the committee is going to look at on your screen one more time at the bottom of it there. You look at it from the Red Raiders perspective. You've got a solid net ranking. Okay. We know that playing the toughest conference in America, you're going to have opportunities. From a quad one perspective, you got 6 wins, 9 losses. Put that into perspective. That is more, well, actually the same as BYU, but more than Auburn, more than Wisconsin, a couple other teams as well that are ahead of them in the net rankings. Now, quad 2, you're 4-1. You've also got, and the quad 1 loss that you had, or quad 2 loss that you had was to Cincinnati. Okay, so remember that. Remember that Cincinnati game. That's where they were just decimated by the flu, were the Red Raiders. So you had that. Then quad 3, quad 4, you're 13-0. Your strength of schedule is 26th. Your non-con strength of schedule, let's just call it what it is. It's butt cheeks. It's really bad. It's really bad. It's 3-11. So they'll look at that. Does that penalize the Red Raiders? I think it's going to be interesting from that perspective. Now, KenPom has you in the top 25, right at 25. Net rankings is 28th, as I just mentioned. Then you got T-Rank at 28th as well. And then you've also got the BPI at 25th. I should say net is 27th. Excuse me. I was reading the wrong number there. But that's the resume you're going to see if you're the committee for Texas Tech. Okay. So where do you think that they go? I think that's very interesting in the standpoint of, we talked about this on previous lives here and videos on the channel discussing, does the committee take injuries into account? And it sounds like they're going to, okay? And if that's the case, well, Texas Tech is one of those teams you got to take injuries into account, right? You have to. I'm not saying you got to take all of them into account in the sense of 6 games for Warren Washington or anything, but maybe pick and choose here, like that Cincinnati game, for example. Come on, man. Half the team had the flu. Right? If that's what we're doing here, and it looks like that's what the committee is going to do. The chairman even said so, that, hey, for a team like Indiana State, we are going to take into account that they did not have their best player in one of their games. So what does that do for their seeding? Do they get in? I hope so. Indiana State's a fun team to watch, that's for sure. Shout out to Renee. Appreciate you for the super chat, my guy, tuning in here. Time to wreck the brackets, I believe, as well. It should be a lot of fun. And if you want to get your comment on the screen, that's the easiest way to do it, is simply a super chat right there. Appreciate you, Renee, and always tuning in. All right, let's see. Nick says it's X. It's not. It's Twitter. Let's get over it. Grant, he just said, keep looking. And then, haha, that SIG was supposed to be a black circle. No big deal. We got you, Renee. We got you. It's a smoking gun. Let's just call it that. Okay. No worries at all. And here we go. It is starting over on CBS. If y'all want to watch it, the selection show is starting right now. Again, we'll have instant reaction here on the channel for Texas Tech. I mean, where do y'all think they're going to go? I know that y'all have them. Where do you think the region is? You think they go East, Midwest? Where do you want them to go? Because I know a lot of people will say South, but if you say South, you got to play Houston. So you got to think about it that way too. I'm interested to hear what y'all think. And we got 900 people in here. Okay. So let me know what y'all think over on Twitter as well. Let me give a couple more shout outs. I know some people on Twitter retweeted it over here or liked it, I should say. Let me go check it out real fast. Make sure we give a couple of shout outs. We've got Campbell. We've got the Opinionated Texan. We've also got Brandon. We've got Melvin. We've got Greggs. We've got TJ, David, Jacoby, Landon, Hagan. We've also got Sophia. We've got Vinny, Maddie, and Cooper. Those are everybody that has liked the video over there. Over 900 watching right now on, well, Twitter. And then we've got another 100 watching on YouTube. This is going to be fun. This is going to be my instant reaction. So I'm not even going to hold it back for you guys. You're going to see me in my most natural state here for Texas Tech in the sense of where they may end up. And you got the crew on there. It's always weird for me to see Wright on there as well. Jay Wright, I still think he'd be a top 5 coach in America, but he's an analyst and obviously a lot easier of a gig. By the way, we just hit 1,000 people watching. So for y'all that don't know, the special guest I will have here during the first round matchup of the NCAA tournament for your Texas Tech Red Raiders, where we will be doing a live stream, is Austin Massey. Y'all may know him from his time over at Inside the Red Raiders. And then now over at the Scarlet and Black Insider, I'll be doing play-by-play. He will be joining me. But here we go. We've got the East region, and UConn is the #1 seed in the East region. No surprise there. Also, shout out to John for the $20 super chat recom now to watch the selection show in solitude. Yeah, you ain't got to worry about it. So that's it. You know your team is in, and here we go. Let's see what we've got here for Texas Tech. Stetson will be the 16. They will be alongside of UConn in that one. So they were an automatic qualifier. Good luck against the national champions for Stetson there. Always cool to see these mid-major teams get in, though. In Brooklyn, they're playing on Friday, the 8th seed in that region. Again, these could give you some indications on where Texas Tech is going to be. Florida Atlantic comes in as the 8th seed in the East region. Final Four a year ago, Dusty May, his name in the mix for a lot of those big-time coaching jobs. They come in at the 8th seed, and then they will face off against the Wildcats of Northwestern. They are in the tournament, so there you go. Another Big Ten team in. It's going to be interesting. How many Big 12 teams do y'all think get in? I think 9 personally, but here we go. Could Texas Tech get the 5 seed in the East? It'll be on Friday in Spokane if they do. The 5 seed in the East, as they continue to talk about Northwestern here, is San Diego State. So Texas Tech is not the 5 seed in the East. San Diego State, the Aztecs will head out there and they will face off against the fighting Andy Kennedys in the UAB Blazers as the 12th seed. So we've got UConn, Stetson. That's the first round matchup there with Auburn now as the 4 seed in the East region. Again, this is one of those things where you look at it and then you got Yale coming in there as the 13. Good luck against Auburn. Auburn's playing their best basketball of the season, but that Yale win today was super, super fun to watch. Here we go. Could Texas Tech be a 6 seed? This would be in the East region on Thursday in Omaha. No, it's BYU. Oh, buddy. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. If BYU's a 6, that kind of tells me Texas Tech's a 5. Okay, that's what it tells me right away. I want to hear from you guys in the chat. Let me know on Twitter as well. But BYU as a 6, that kind of tells me right now that, hey, Texas Tech's in a good spot to get a 5. Will they get it? We'll find out here in just a second. But Illinois, they just won their conference title. Always good to see TJ on there. They are a 3 seed. They will be in Omaha. This is on CBS, by the way. So you can turn into CBS. It's just on your local CBS affiliate if you want to tune in there. But be sure to keep it on your phone as well. Here we go. The 7 seed, Thursday in Omaha. It's interesting. I agree with y'all. You've been calling it for a while, Joseph, that Texas Tech would be a 5 and Washington State is a 7. There were some metric sites out there that said Washington State and Texas Tech weren't too far away. I've seen them as close as 2 spots in some places. They are a 7 seed that will play in Omaha on Thursday. The Cougars will match up against Drake. Oh, buddy. That's a fun matchup. That's a really fun matchup in the East. Washington State against Drake, the Bulldogs. I like that. That's a fun one. Let's see who is the 2 seed. Iowa State. No one line. I know CBS had Iowa State, the Cyclones, who absolutely obliterated, and I mean obliterated, the Houston Cougars last night in Kansas City. Held them to what, 41 points? My goodness. Just the best performance I've seen a team have this year. They are the 2 seed in the East. They will face off and go to Omaha, basically a home game for them, against South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits. So you look at this. You look at the top 4 seeds. It's UConn as the 1, Iowa State as the 2, Illinois as the 3 there in terms of that region. Now you're thinking about Auburn as well as the 4 there. Okay. BYU is the key indicator there for Texas Tech. Okay. So looking at that one right there, the key indicator there is BYU as a 6. If BYU is a 6, again, I think that means Texas Tech is a 5. We're going to find out here soon enough if I'm right or wrong in front of, well, over 1,000 people watching right now. I'm very appreciative for that. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, retweet and favorite the video if you're watching on Twitter, and I know a lot of y'all are right now. In fact, we've got over 1,000 people right now watching on Twitter. Come on, let's get those retweets up. Come on, people. Let's get a couple of those retweets up. All right. This is interesting. I think my favorite one in terms of the game in that one from that region, Washington State and Drake. My initial gut reaction there, I'm taking Drake. Drake is a really fun team. They beat Indiana State there in the Missouri Valley Conference. They're really fun. They are a really well-coached team. I think that's a fun matchup, and that's no slouch to Washington State. A lot of people haven't got to see the Cougars play because obviously they're out in the Pac-12 in the final year of that conference existing. That's a really fun team, and they have one of the better freshmen in the country out there as well, do the Cougars. But Drake is a really, really fun team to watch. All right, let's see who we got next. Well, they're going to head to commercial. Got to build the interest, you know? So we got the East region. No Texas Tech in there, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hey, BYU, they are a 6 seed in the East region. Does that mean, in y'all's opinion, that you think Texas Tech is now going to be a 5? Maybe they're going to be slotted above a 6, just the same seeding? Let me know. It's going to be super interesting. Patrick says, no East, looks like South or Midwest. Yep. Joseph, fun stuff. That will be heavily attended. Iowa State and South Dakota State. Yeah, that game's going to be really, really fun. There in Omaha. It only makes sense, says Renee, which is why I worry in the sense of he commented a little bit earlier about that in terms of BYU getting the 6 and me saying Texas Tech is a 5. Again, if you want to get your comment on the screen, the easiest way to do it is simply a super chat. We've got Renee in there already. We've got John. Want to give them a shout out. Appreciate you sending in the $20 super chat, John, and always supporting the channel, as well as Renee, the $9 one. Disregard the cigarette. We talked about it. It was supposed to be another black circle, he said. So give the man a little bit of credit there. You know what I mean? He wasn't just trying to promote that or nothing. It's not like that at all. All right. Let's see here. It's going to be interesting because I believe the South is next. I could be wrong in that regard, but I believe that the South is the next region that will be discussed. And man, I look at that, and another thing that kind of stands out to me is if that's the case about UConn, right? The one thing that is super interesting to me is Iowa State wasn't the highest 2 seed. That's super interesting in a lot of ways because I thought Iowa State, they have the best win in college basketball this year. Actually, 2 of them. They beat Houston twice. The only time they lost to Houston was down there in Houston. Everybody did that, but they beat Houston twice this year. Okay. That's interesting to me from that standpoint that Iowa State is not the highest 2 seed Yeah, that's super interesting. Mark asked if Tech is a 5 seed, is that their highest seed in program history? We got Renee and Danny answering that. No, a 3 seed is in 2019. Um, John says the reason Houston lost that game was they packed that game in. I listen, if you pack that game in for a conference championship in year number 1 where you can go in there if you're Coach Sampson and say, "We not only won the regular season, but the conference championship as well." Like in the tournament? Nah, man. I don't think they packed it in. I just think Iowa State thoroughly outclassed them. Um, Iowa State played their best game of basketball, I thought, against Houston last night. And again, Houston probably played their worst game. So, I mean, it was just one of those nights. But in my opinion, that was the most impressive win in all of college basketball this season. Was that one where they just thoroughly outclassed um, really Houston in every facet of the game. All right, let me give a couple more shout outs as we've got over 1,100 people watching on YouTube or on Twitter, excuse me. And then we've got 200 more on, well, YouTube. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Houston, I need to just stick to the plan. I'm sorry, people. Here we go. Houston, the number 1 seed in the South. No surprise here. Will Texas Tech be in the South? Let me know in the comments section. Just a Y for yes or in for no. Let me know real quick. You've only got a couple of seconds here to answer. Houston will be in Memphis on Friday. They will match up against Longwood. I ain't going to lie to you. I don't know where the hell that is. Is that Missouri? I think that might be Missouri. I think it might be Missouri. Don't quote me on that, though. All right. Let's see. Let's hope Longwood beats Houston. Yeah, you can only hope, right? You can only hope. Oh, man. Not ideal situation for the computer to freeze, but here we go. We got it back up and running, people. So we're good. Oh, nope. No, we didn't. We're going to try here. We're trying, people. I apologize. But again, Houston is the 1 seed in the South. That's what we know right now. Okay. They're facing off against Longwood. Cool. Whatever that means. Probably means Houston just absolutely obliterates them. Let's see. We've got Nebraska and Texas A&M as the 8 and 9 as I catch back up. Wisconsin is the 5. No 5 seed in the South for Texas Tech, and they avoid James Madison. That's a big one for me. I did not want to play James Madison. I really did not. So Wisconsin gets the 5 seed there. Houston against Texas A&M or Nebraska will be a electric game. Either way, that's going to be a fun one. Wisconsin gets the 5 seed out in Brooklyn on Friday against James Madison, the 4 seed, the Duke Blue Devils in Brooklyn against the 13 seed here in just a little bit. So Houston, they start out in Memphis, as does Nebraska and Texas A&M. They'll play on Friday. And then Duke will play Vermont on Thursday or on Friday as well up in Brooklyn, where Wisconsin and James Madison will face off. For those that don't know why the James Madison aspect of it, they're really good and they beat Michigan State in Michigan State. And there we go. Texas Tech is a 6 seed. The Red Raiders will play on Thursday in Pittsburgh. The number 11 seed against Texas Tech, the NC State Wildcats. Gut reaction, people. Let me know. Let me get this tweet off real quick. The Red Raiders will face off and be a 6 seed in the South region. They still have a chance to get to Dallas. They would just play Houston in the Elite 8. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me get this tweet off real quick. There we go. Thoughts, comments. Kentucky, I don't mind the Kentucky draw. I don't mind the Kentucky draw. And we'll talk about, let's finish this whole bracket and then we'll get strictly into the Texas Tech side of things. And again, if you want to have your question answered, easiest way to do that is a super chat on YouTube. But again, your Red Raiders will be the 6th seed, same seed as BYU. So there you go. They will face off against arguably the hottest team in the country right now in the NC State Wolfpack on Thursday in Pittsburgh. Game time, TBD. The 3 seed where Texas Tech would play if they were able to win would be Kentucky against Oakland as the 14 seed. Florida is the 7. They would play one of those Dayton games, and then Marquette is the 2 seed. The Dayton game for the 10 seed there, a little different this year. Not the 11 seed is playing in Dayton. It's actually the 10 seed. It's Boise State, a familiar face in Buzo out there in Boise, and then Colorado. I don't know how I feel about the draw here. If I'm being honest, it's an interesting one for Texas Tech, I think, in a lot of perspectives. Again, you get NC State, arguably the hottest team in the country right now. There's nothing wrong with that. They're going on a run. Maybe they just don't have their legs or anything, but let's get to talking about it. I'm going to go all the way back up. We got a 6 seed. 6 seed. Everybody let me know. 6 seed Thursday in Pittsburgh. There we go. Wolfpack. ACC champs. That is a tough opponent. A 6 seed. What the hell moment. Got to get through Kentucky. NC State is the Wolfpack, not the Wildcats. Yes, I apologize. I was getting confused with Kentucky there. My bad, Jason. Good call out. Again, you look at it. If you're Texas Tech, you get Kentucky. You got Florida down there in Marquette. You are the 6 seed against NC State. And I think you actually match up okay against NC State. That being said, is there a hotter team in the country right now? I don't know. The Wolfpack are on fire. What they did in D.C. at the ACC tournament was historic. 5 wins in 5 days. Absolutely impressive from them. And we'll have plenty of content here on the channel. A lot of people are not happy about this. Let me know. Are you happy? Not happy? Let me know in the comments. We've got a lot of reactions here. We've got a lot of reactions. I'm going to read some of them in terms of my tweet. Get to Dallas if we win the first 2. 6 seed is BS. Tough draw, very tough. Line lower than BYU makes no sense. Brutal. Seems like a nightmare round 1 draw. Screaming hot team with a giant dude that can hoop. Yeah, they do have a big that's actually pretty damn good. That's for sure. But you would think Texas Tech would be in a good spot in the sense of you get a week off. Hopefully you get Warren Washington back and have a couple of those guys ready to go. But yeah, I mean, there you go. Senko, you got to think about it in that regard. 5 wins in 5 days. Tough to pull off 6 in a row. It is. And again, you're up in Pittsburgh. It's far away from NC State. It's far away from Tech. Obviously a little bit closer for them in terms of flight. Nothing too crazy. But my initial gut reaction is it's not the best draw in the world, but I think there's worse. I think there's worse. And, you got to remember this. Think about it this way. I hear what y'all are saying in terms of NC State is arguably one of the hottest teams in the country. All right. Think about it that way. Think about it that way. But you also have to remember this. NC State had to win 5 games in a row in the ACC tournament to make the tournament. You got to think about it that way. Right. So they went nuts in terms of winning that tournament, and give them their flowers. But they had to win 5 in a row to do it. And again, maybe that transitions into the NCAA tournament, but you have to think about it from this perspective. NC State 5 days ago wasn't even in the conversation to make the tournament, and you get them here. Again, a lot has changed in 5 days. I get it. You get that too. But for me, I think that that's a pretty solid draw when it all comes down to it. Could there have been a better draw? Yeah, the committee could have fucked up and put Longwood as an 11, but that was never going to happen. Realistically, this is one of the better draws Texas Tech could have gotten, in my opinion, from that standpoint. Now, you got to have your hands full because NC State's a really good basketball team. There's no debating that. But also, man, you get you almost get the best of both worlds, in my opinion, from this standpoint of like, yeah, you got to win games. I mean, it's a tournament. Everybody has to win games to keep playing. You get to be in the South. You have that almost carrot in front of you, right? Like, I'm sure y'all seen The Simpsons where they put like a Twinkie in front of Homer or something, and he's just running on a treadmill and he can never reach it with the thing on his head, right? That's kind of where we're at if you're Texas Tech, in the sense of you chase after that. You have a little carrot in front of you in the sense of Dallas. You have that opportunity, okay? But you don't have to face Houston until the Elite Eight. And who says you get there? Who says Houston gets there? Okay. So you think about it from that perspective, but also the biggest thing I can think of right now from the way I'm thinking about it is, again, I don't want it to seem like I am shitting on NC State. I'm not. What they did was historic. But again, not even 5 days ago, they weren't in the tournament picture, let alone an 11 seed. Like, you got to think about it from that perspective. And again, you're going to have to take them seriously. You hope you have Darion Williams in terms of close to 100%, which I think he will be pretty damn close. And then, hey, you could get Warren Washington back. And like Blake just said in the chat, I agree. Like, they won their conference tournament, so they deserve to be in. That's how the rules work. But if you look at their regular season body of work, they're not a tournament team. They're not. NC State isn't. That doesn't mean that they can't beat Texas Tech on any given night. I mean, it's a tournament. We see crazy things all the time. Shout out to St. Peter's. But that's kind of where we're at. Let me know, though. This is one of those deals, man, where, again, no one's ever going to be happy about any draw. Like, you're always going to find a reason not to like it. But all things considered, that's not awful. That's not a bad draw at all. Every team in the tournament is good. It's just levels to it. Okay? So it is what it is from that standpoint. Let's see, Rick. We need Warren Washington to stand a chance. What are we talking about? Stand a chance, man. Like, I don't get that. I don't get that in that regard. What do you mean stand a chance? They beat Baylor, a team much better than NC State without him. They beat BYU without him, a much better team than NC State. What are we doing here? Like, Warren Washington does not dictate if you win this basketball game. Now, if he plays, obviously that's going to help. There's no doubt about it. But he is not the be-all, end-all to you winning this game, in my opinion. Going through the Midwest real quick, we've got Purdue as the one there. No shocker. They'll face off against Montana State or Grambling State. Those two teams will play in Dayton for a spot in the NCAA tournament. And then Utah State, an 8 seed. I saw them as high as a 5. Wow, the committee definitely viewed them differently. TCU comes in as a 9. Gonzaga's a 5? What are we doing? How? It doesn't matter now. And then McNeese is the 12 seed in that one. I don't get that. I don't get that at all. Yeah, that's weird to me. Gonzaga's a 5. Yeah, that's tough. And then Kansas comes in as a 4 seed. They'll face off against the 13 seed out in Salt Lake City on Thursday. Who will they play? They will play Samford. I believe that's the Bulldogs. Wow, they got the whole town shut down. It looked like somebody was standing on a light pole there in Samford. Anyway, back to the Texas Tech side of things. I don't think it's that bad of a draw, guys. Like, in the sense of, like, just think about it. Like, again, there's going to be people that criticize everything. And is NC State a good team? Yes, no doubt about it. Good team. I'm there with you. But they had to go on a historic 5-day stretch to get into the tournament. When you look at what they did in the ACC, in a down year for the ACC, they weren't good. They just weren't. Now, are they playing their best basketball right now in a dangerous team? Absolutely. But you could be facing off against a much better and much more proven 11 seed throughout the whole year. South Carolina's a 6. Who are they playing? Oregon. Hell no. I'd much rather play NC State than Oregon. I mean, yeah, I'd rather play NC State. And then Creighton's the 3 seed. This from Christopher. RC, as a coach, would you care about seeding? I would care about seeding in the sense of this is where it sends me, but also I'm going to take any opponent seriously, right? Like, that's really what it comes down to. Now, some opponents are better than others. That's nature of college basketball. But I do think, yeah, I would take seeding into account for sure. I definitely would. But man, Oregon against South Carolina got no favors. And then Texas comes in as a 7 seed. They'll play in Charlotte, North Carolina against the winner of Virginia, Colorado State in a play-in game up in Dayton. Who would you root for if it was Texas, Virginia? Texas Tech fans, who would you root for there? I mean, I think we know, but also a little fun question to say the least. From that perspective, this is the Midwest region, and then Tennessee gets the 2 seed out in the Midwest. I mean, wow, they played terrible. It's crazy. You could have in the round of 32 the 2 burnt orange schools playing against each other. Rick Barnes against his former institution that he worked for in Texas in the round of 32 there in Charlotte, potentially. The number 15 team, shout out to the Peacocks. St. Peter's. They'll be the 15 seed. Maybe they take down another Goliath, in that regard. So there you go. Wow. That's an interesting bracket there. But get your Texas Tech questions in. We'll continue to talk about it in terms of where Texas Tech landed. And again, it was in the South region. It's one of those deals where, again, I don't think it's the toughest draw in the world. That being said, what is easy in March Madness? I don't think a lot of things are. Really, nothing is. But that being said, I'm more surprised Texas Tech didn't end up on the 5 line ahead of BYU. But that kind of just that really kind of just tells you what's going on in terms of the committee and what they evaluate. I mean, BYU and Texas Tech were close, and I guess they valued that win against San Diego State in the non-con pretty damn highly for them. Let me respond to this real quick. All right. Back at it. Here we go. Let's see what we got here. Would root for Virginia. TCU is going to beat Purdue if they can get past Utah State. Rick, honestly, I might pick either of them to beat Purdue. Utah State's got some athletic bigs. They can stretch Edey out. Edey's gotten better with his footwork, but yeah, man, I don't know. I just can't bet on a Purdue team. I just you couldn't pay me enough money to do it. It's from Levi. I could definitely see us going to the Elite Eight. I don't know about the Elite Eight, man. But I do think that Texas Tech is in a good spot in terms of, again, I truly understand NC State is a very, very hot team right now. They are a good team. I am not trying to belittle them, but we have to remember they had to win 5 games in 5 days to get into the tournament. Okay? Like, that's not nothing. And you think about it from the perspective of, okay, who else is in the South region if you're Texas Tech? And here we go. We'll run through it one more time. Actually, we'll probably do it a couple more times. We got over 2,000 people in here. Appreciate y'all. If you haven't already, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell for daily Texas Tech men's basketball videos throughout the most epic time of the year, March Madness. And then if you're on Twitter, if you haven't already, follow me for more Texas Tech info. And, be sure to head on over to the Scarlet and Black Insider for the best Texas Tech basketball news, updates for recruiting, portal, whatever it is. We'll keep you up to date over there. Your first month is just $1. Can't beat that. Okay, here we go. South region. We know Houston, number 1. It is what it is. Longview, 16. Nebraska comes in at the 8. Texas A&M is the 9. Nothing too crazy there. Wisconsin is the 5. They face off against James Madison. Not ideal. Not ideal if you're Wisconsin. That is a tough draw. Then you got Duke as the 4, Vermont at 13. This is where Texas Tech enters the picture. The Red Raiders are the 6th seed in the South region, the opposite side of the bracket of Houston. Now, they will face off against arguably the hottest team in college basketball right now in the NC State Wolfpack. Whatever that is in terms of, again, I've given my opinion on the sense that they had to win 5 games in 5 days to get in. They're an okay team, but they're just hot. Does that continue into Pittsburgh? Maybe. Maybe it does. But if you just look at their resume from the season aspect of it, let's be real, they're not a tournament team. But those 5 wins in Washington, D.C. got them there, and they are playing some serious ball right now. There's no doubt about it. Kentucky, the Wildcats are the 3 seed. They'll face off against Oakland. Florida is the 7 seed. They will face off against the winner of a play-in game between Boise State and the Buffaloes of Colorado. The 2 seed in the South is Marquette. They will face off against the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky. I see people saying this draw is hard. Like, again, every game in the tournament is going to be hard, people. It just is. There's no easy matchups. But all things considered, like, that's not awful. Okay, like, I get it. You probably want to be a 5, but then you'd probably complain in the sense of, oh, we got to play Houston, in the sense of, hey, we got to play Houston potentially in the Sweet 16. Like, NC State is a good basketball team. There's no doubt about it. I'm not saying it's hard. I'm not saying it's an easy draw either. I would say it's probably just down the middle. Like, that's what it is, right? Like, that's where you're at if you're Texas Tech. Now, the Kentucky draw, okay, yeah, that's difficult. We can have a conversation about that. But I'm strictly talking about the only game that matters for Texas Tech, not looking ahead. That's the NC State game. And I think Texas Tech can match up well against the Wolfpack. But if the Wolfpack continue to play like they have over the past, week? Okay, yeah, we're going to have a conversation about this thing. But it is a winnable game for Texas Tech. And in fact, I bet you they're favored in that one by probably like 3.5, 4 points. I bet you that's what it comes down to. North Carolina, they are the other number 1 seed, the final number 1 seed out west. They will play in. Is that real? They get to play in Charlotte? Wow. Okay. All right. They get to play in Charlotte. They'll play Howard or Wagner, one of those 2 playing teams up there in Dayton. And then Mississippi State and Michigan State are the 8 and 9s. Not too bad right there, to be honest. In the grand scheme of things, if you're North Carolina, my goodness. That's a nice little draw if you're North Carolina. Let me tell you what. That's a nice little draw if you're them. Well, St. Mary's, they beat Gonzaga. I don't understand the Gonzaga aspect of it. That's a little confusing to me, I'll be honest. But hey, it is what it is at this point. Again, it kind of comes down to the standpoint of if you wanted to be in the South, I think this is probably the best case scenario for you from the standpoint of you're the 6th seed and not the 5, and you wouldn't have to play Houston until the Elite 8 potentially. And you obviously don't want to play a team like Kentucky, but that's going to be an opportunity. But really what you're focused on is NC State. And again, talking about that, Clemson is another 6th seed. That's interesting that Clemson is the same seed as the Red Raiders. And New Mexico is an 11. I'll be honest with you. I'd rather play NC State than New Mexico. I don't know how much y'all have gotten to watch New Mexico play ball this year, but they're really good. And then there's Baylor. They come in as the 3 seed out west. They will head to Memphis. They will play Colgate. The fighting toothpaste machine, said no one ever but me. That's an interesting one right there, to say the least. So you've got the West region. The 7 seed is Dayton, the Flyers. They will head out to Salt Lake City, Utah, and play on Thursday against the 10 seed in the West region. Who will the Flyers face off against? The Nevada Wolfpack. There you go. They are in. That's a good team too right there. Again, every team is good in the NCAA tournament. I think we all know that, but very, very interesting from that standpoint. The 2 seed out in the West, that means it can only be 1 team at this point in terms of what's going on. And of course, it's Arizona. The Wildcats get the 2 seed. the fighting Caleb Loves of the world. And then they will face off against the last team to be announced in the NCAA tournament bracket for this year. They will face off with the Wildcats against, take your time, CBS, we're all good, Long Beach State. There you go. Let's see here. Will we have Warren back? That from Sam. I think there's a chance for sure. Who didn't make it? Let me know. Let me know who didn't make it. OU. OU did not make it. Okay. Yes, y'all are right. Okay, OU's out. So by my math, correct me if I'm wrong, is that 9 Big 12 teams or 8? I think it was 8, correct? Let me know. Let me know. I'm watching this go down right here. Christopher, where did you get those odds from in terms of Texas Tech versus NC State? Is that already out? Again, Oklahoma did not make it. You did not have Kansas State. You got 8 Big 12 teams in, according to Danny. Shout out to you, Danny. I appreciate that. In fact, let's put it on the board real quick. 8 Big 12 teams made it. That's interesting. I thought 9 would make it, to be honest. And instead you get 8. Okay. Okay. That's interesting if you're Texas Tech. Yeah, that's interesting if you're Texas Tech in a couple of ways there, from the standpoint of, if you look at it just from, hey, what are we looking at from the standpoint of Big 12 teams? It almost looks like the committee did take into account the fact that some of these Big 12 teams didn't really play good non-con schedules. Okay, so there's that now. Yeah. They're talking about hot teams right now in the sense of going on in the tournament. They mentioned New Mexico as the 11 seed out west. Man, and there it is. Big 12 and SEC got the same amount? Okay. That's interesting. Big 10 got 6. The last 4 in were Boise, Colorado, Virginia, Colorado State. Oklahoma was the last team out of the NCAA tournament, just ahead of Seton Hall, Indiana State, and Pittsburgh. So again, Oklahoma not in the NCAA tournament in their last year in the Big 12. Sniff you later. Have fun in the SEC. I'm sure that's what every Big 12 fan is saying right now. That's a shocker to me. That's a shocker to me, in a lot of ways. Yeah, wow. I think the thing for me, from the standpoint of this, you got the same amount as the SEC. So that's interesting. And you have to think Mississippi State and what they did really elevated them, in terms of their run a little bit, out there, and where they play that Nashville, I guess, in their conference tournament. But yeah, I mean, Red Dawn might have just said it best right there. NC State took their spot. I mean, there's a lot of bid stealers. Think about it. Oregon stole a bid. NC State, they were the 11 seed in the ACC tournament. Now they're 11 seed in the NCAA tournament. That's how historic of a run they had out there in DC. I mean, nuts. Just nuts type stuff. And again, your Red Raiders, I'll put it at the bottom of the screen here in just a second, will face off against NC State out in Pittsburgh. The Red Raiders will be a 6 seed. The Wolfpack are an 11. Let me fix that on your screen real quick. All right, there we go. Got at the bottom of your screen right now. in terms of Texas Tech being a 6 seed in the South region. Yeah, and they'll face off against NC State. I don't know why this thing messed up on me, but be all right. There we go. Got it back on your screen right there. There you go. Texas Tech, a 6 seed in the South region, will play 11-seeded NC State on Thursday in Pittsburgh. Again, if you haven't already and you're watching on YouTube, which I know a lot of y'all are, I know a lot of y'all are watching on Twitter right now as well. Over 2,200 people watching on Twitter. Y'all are nuts. Y'all are absolutely insane. Thank y'all for tuning in. If you haven't followed me on Twitter already, be sure to do so. And then be sure to go on, head on over to, YouTube. And we'll have daily videos there. We'll have a couple more lives, and we'll be live streaming with a live interactive scoreboard doing play-by-play here of the first round matchup for your Texas Tech Red Raiders. And we know who they're playing now. It will be the NC State Wolfpack, the ACC tournament champions. We'll head up to Pittsburgh to face your Texas Tech Red Raiders on Thursday in a matchup between the 6 seed and the 11 seed. So, again, it'll be interesting to see when Texas Tech does play, because I've seen a couple people mention, hopefully they don't play at 11 a.m. Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. Nobody wants to watch that in terms of, everybody would want to watch it, but just one of those deals where you don't want to play the early game. Ole Miss did not make it as well. Anton says, brutal region. Man, I get it. It's a tough region. Don't get me wrong for Texas Tech. And let's talk about this a little bit. Let me know. Do you think it's a brutal region in the comments? Yes or no? Let me know why you think it's a, brutal region, because I'll give you my perspective on this again from an overall region perspective. Okay. And we'll run through it one more time. Houston. Yeah, that sucks. And then you've got Nebraska, Texas A&M as the 8-9. Texas A&M is one of the hottest teams in the country too. And remember, they were one of those teams that was ranked in the top 20 nationally preseason. They dealt with a lot of injuries, and now they're starting to play their best ball. Nebraska, Coach Hoiberg, up there in Lincoln. Really, really good. Yes, Wolfpack. I keep calling them the Wildcats. I suck. I apologize on that front. Yes, it's the Wolfpack. Thank you for correcting me there, Isaac. We've got Wisconsin, the Badgers as the 5 seed, James Madison as the 12. You've got Duke as the 4 and Vermont as the 13. That is the upper part of the South region. Now this is where Texas Tech gets involved. You've got Texas Tech as the 6 seed. You've got NC State as the 11. Again, the Wolfpack are the team that just won the ACC tournament after winning 5 games in 5 days. Truly an historic type run by the Wolfpack, okay, out in DC. Before that, they were the 11 seed in the ACC tournament. Now they're an 11 seed in the NCAA tournament because of what they did. So think about that for a second. Then you've got the Wildcats of Kentucky, and I'm not going to lie to you, Isaac. You called me out for the Wolfpack. That's not going to be the last time that I mess up Wolfpack and Wildcats with NC State, since Kentucky's right there potentially. But the Wolfpack will play the Red Raiders as the 11 seed. The Wildcats are the 3 seed in Kentucky. They will face off against Oakland. Now, Florida is the 7 seed. They will play the winner of a play-in game up in Dayton between the Broncos of Boise State or the Buffaloes of Colorado. Then you've got Marquette, the Golden Eagles, facing off against the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky. Okay? So from the standpoint, again, of Texas Tech, in best case scenario, I guess you would say in that sense, like, who would you rather have seen Texas Tech play on the 11 line? Like, just go look at the other regions and tell me, pick one of the 11 seeds from those regions and tell me who you'd rather play. Because I think from that standpoint, NC State is probably the most favorable one, if you ask me, okay? And that standpoint is, again, the Wolfpack had to win 5 games in 5 days, give everything they had. And yes, they have time to rest. I get it. I really do. And I think they're a solid basketball team. But once again, they were the 11 seed in the ACC tournament. Now they are an 11 seed in the NCAA tournament because they had to win 5 games in a row. Who else would you rather play as an 11 seed? I don't want to play New Mexico. I'll tell you that right now. I just don't want to play a team like that. Maybe I'm delusional. And Eric brings up a good point in the sense that, yeah, like, hey, NC State beat a 1 seed, though. They can be good. No, they are good. Let's not get it twisted. Every team in the NCAA tournament is good. There's no debating that. Zero. You can't debate it, okay? But from the standpoint of what they had to do to get into the tournament, you probably feel good about your chances, right? In the sense of Texas Tech is going to look to be a little bit healthier. You expect to have Darion Williams back, right? That's what Coach McCasland has said. You also would expect to potentially have Warren Washington back. So you think about that. Also, let me know if y'all can see me on Twitter right now. Someone just said that the stream cut out. On my end, it's good, but I want to make sure y'all can still see me and everything in terms of the stream on there and whatnot. So let me know on that side of things if y'all can still hear me and everything. Yeah, just want to make sure the stream is all good. All right. Again, NC State. Let's go look at them real quick in terms of KenPom, shall we? Let's see where NC State presents themselves. Got to go all the way down to 58. Okay. KenPom has them as an 11 seed, obviously, because that's where they're at in the tournament, and they come in at 58th in his rankings. They went 22-14 this year. They had the 47th best adjusted offense and the 90th best, actually 89th, adjusted defense when it comes down to it. Okay. For reference, Texas Tech, when you look at them, they finished 24th in KenPom, got the 6th seed. Teams around them, that's where it's interesting for Texas Tech. Okay. So you look at teams that kind of finished ahead of them or right around them. If you're in KenPom, the team that did not get in that was around them in KenPom was St. John's, right below them. They did not get in the tournament. But teams around them that did get in the tournament were New Mexico. They are an 11 seed. Kansas was 22. They're a 4 seed. San Diego State got the 5. Texas Tech was the 24th team, according to KenPom, and they got the 6th seed, as you might know. But it's interesting because, again, NC State all the way down there at 58. I'm not trying to discredit what the Wolfpack did. I'm not, man. I'm really not. They got a good, solid team. Truthfully, they do. But if I can just say it one more time, they were the 11th seed in the ACC tournament 5 days ago. They went on and won 5 games in a row. Tip your cap to them. That's hard as hell to do in any league, let alone a conference tournament setting where if you lose or you don't win the tournament, you're not in. Credit to them. Now they're an 11 seed in the NCAA tournament. Like, I don't know, man. I'm not saying that it's one of those deals where, again, could there be better options for Texas Tech? Yes. And I'll have to deep dive a little bit more, and I'll have a game preview on the channel over on the Back to 12 podcast channel tomorrow. If you haven't already, be sure to go like this live, subscribe over there, as well as hit that notification bell, because we will be doing a live stream of the first game of the Grant McCasland era in the NCAA tournament with a live scoreboard on there. We'll have a scoreboard down at the bottom, keeping you up to date of the latest happenings around the first day of the NCAA tournament. We'll also have a special guest on there. I told you I'd let you go who that special guest was at 1,000. We're almost at 2,500 people watching right now. It would be Austin Massey. I'll be doing the play-by-play. He'll have commentary. We'll be keeping you up to date on the latest happenings around the NCAA tournament, while also giving you play-by-play action for your Texas Tech Red Raiders. So if you want to come hang out with one of the largest groups of Texas Tech, followers on social media, it's the second biggest one on YouTube, just because it's not a university account. That's how big the Back to 12 podcast is in Red Raider Nation. Coming out and support it. If you want to join hundreds, maybe even thousands of Red Raiders tuning in, you know what to do. On Twitter, retweet this video, like it, and then on YouTube, like the video, and then obviously hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. Again, almost 2,500 of y'all tuned in right now. Really, really appreciate it. I also appreciate you Texas Tech Red Raider alum, let me know that the stream cut out just a little bit. Glad to hear it's all good, though, in that regard. This from Katie. Tech should have been a 4. Why is BYU higher? Well, they're on the same seed line. I get it, though, from that perspective. I think Texas Tech is the better team. Yes, they beat BYU twice. BYU has a couple of really good wins that Texas Tech just doesn't as well. But Texas Tech also has some really good wins in the Big 12 from that perspective. So, yep, it is what it is from that perspective. And again, you're a 6 seed. What are we going to do about it now? There's no point in complaining about it. You just got to look at the matchup and go in and study film if you're the Red Raiders, and I'll be doing the same and have a preview video out to you guys tomorrow. This from Renee. Tech is a better team, in my opinion, in a single elimination tournament. It's who shows up game day. Bingo. 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 Matchups matter. Don't get it wrong. Like, yes, it would be much better if you were playing like Longwood. By the way, somebody corrected me and said that was in Virginia. Thank you. I thought it was in Missouri the whole time. I get it. I get that for sure. From the perspective of who you could play a team from some no-name conference. I really get that. But also, we've seen it year in and year out. It does not matter. In March Madness, it doesn't matter what the number is next to your name. It matters how you perform that given day. Period. End of story. Does not matter. Nothing else. Okay? And so Texas Tech is going to have to come out there and not see the 11 next to NC State. They're not going to need to see the number 6 next to them. The only reason a 6 seed is good for Texas Tech in the sense of them looking at it is motivation. Because I guarantee you those players think that they're better than a 6 seed. I promise you that. And I would tend to agree. I thought they should have been a 5, but that's my opinion. And maybe it's biased. I'm sure somebody will say that. But that's how this tournament works. The numbers and your name do not matter. It only matters how you play on the hardwood that specific day. Period. End of story. And I think Texas Tech with Grant McCassin, what have we learned this year about the Red Raiders? They are in virtually every game if they don't have the flu bug or an injury in every game. You know that they're not going to quit. You know that they're going to give 100% effort each and every night on the hardwood. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I don't know about you guys, but I'm super excited about Texas Tech being back in the NCAA tournament. I'm turning this back on. They're going through them in terms of some of their upset picks. So I'll let you know if I hear anything in the sense of the TV broadcast mentioning some of their favorite upset picks. They're going through the East right now. Now they're looking at the West. I might have already missed the South. But let me get a drink real quick. Jason Brown, did you see that CBS stat that 11 seeds are 27 and 25 against 6? I did. Yeah, being a 5 or a 6 in terms of upsets, those are the most popular ones. So that's where Texas Tech was going to be either way. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people picking NC State to beat Texas Tech on TV, radio, whatever it is. But I'd be interested to see what the line is for Texas Tech. I don't know if it's out yet. Let me do a little bit of digging real quick in terms of DraftKings. Maybe they already put a line out. I doubt it. It's pretty early on. Here we go. They're talking about the South real quick. By the way, overall seed, according to CBS, Texas Tech comes in at 23, for those that are curious. Looking at it, Houston's the number 2 seed, according to CBS. Wisconsin's 19. Duke is 13th overall. And then Texas Tech's 23. Kentucky's 11. Marquette is 7. And then Florida comes in at 25. So really close at the 6 and 7 line here. And Seth Davis is about to talk about some of his favorite upset picks in the South. So here we go in that regard. Oh, nope, they switched it. Never mind. Didn't have anything to say about Texas Tech. So there you go. Going to look real quick at the Red Raiders in the sense of where are they at from the standpoint of potential line. And I think that that's interesting in a lot of ways because, again, this is super early. They may not even have the lines out yet, but my gut tells me Texas Tech is probably going to be favored in that 4.5 range. That's where I would go. And in fact, let's go to good old Bart T, shall we? See what Bart T says on this one. Go down to Texas Tech. See if he's updated his site in terms of his rankings. He always has really good betting stuff on there as well. So I would definitely check that out. Again, we've got 2,500 of you guys listening on Twitter. Really appreciate it. Let's see. We go all the way down. He does not have it updated quite yet. We're going to go on over to DraftKings and see if they have any odds right now. And just early odds for them. It looks like they just had the play-in games. I was wrong. We have odds for Texas Tech, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Let me hear some in the comments real quick. Let me hear some comments in terms of where you think Texas Tech, where the odds should be for the Red Raiders in that sense. And again, let me give a couple shout outs to the people over on YouTube. Again, we got 2,400 of y'all right now tuning in. We've got Tony, we've got Steven, we've got Mike. Those are some of the retweets. We've got Derek, we got KCL, we've got Christopher, we've got Steven, Jason, we've got Campbell again. So good stuff right there in that regard. But yeah, here we go. So we see a 2.5 right there. That's from Texas Tech alum. This from Michael real quick before we get into the odds. NC State is really hot, just beating Virginia Tech, Duke, and number 1 North Carolina to win the NCAA tournament. And Pittsburgh sucks. Baylor gets Colgate sleeper. Kansas. How far were we from the 5 seed? Well, you were 5 in terms of you were 23. So you were about, what does that make you? Technically could have been a 5 seed if math, is good there on my part, which probably isn't. But you were pretty close. You and BYU were right there at it. It sounds like y'all were the top 2 6 seeds BYU was in Texas Tech. So the line, here we go. This is from DraftKings Sportsbook. The Red Raiders open as 5.5-point favorites over the Wolfpack on Thursday morning. Well, at least they're saying Thursday morning, but that time is not official. I apologize. Not official yet. They just have it on the screen. But the Red Raiders are 5.5-point favorites against the Wolfpack on Thursday in Pittsburgh. So there you go. It's interesting. I didn't know what to expect there in terms of the line, but that's an interesting one if you're Texas Tech from a multitude of standpoints, because again, I thought they'd be in that 4.5, 4 range, but they are 5.5-point favorites. Let me tweet that out real quick. All right. So there we go. Texas Tech opens as 5.5-point favorites against NC State in their first round NCAA tournament matchup, according to DraftKings. So that's a little interesting. I think that line's probably a little high in terms of just gut reaction from the jump. But it's in the ballpark. It's in the ballpark. Let's just say that. That's for sure in that standpoint. So not too shocked. But yeah. So again, shout out to over 2,500 of y'all tuning in right now, almost 26. Really appreciate y'all spending some of your Sunday evening now. We've gone into the evening side of things now here at 6 o'clock Central Time, hanging out with me. If y'all have any questions, let me know in the comments. Just making sure everybody gets heard and everything like that. And one more time, if you haven't already, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell on YouTube. And if you're listening on Twitter, retweet the video and then also like it. And I don't know if you're listening and you haven't followed me. I don't know what you're doing at that point. So I don't know, man. Seems suspicious. Seems suspicious to me. Just saying. All right. Once again, Red Raiders end up the 6th seed in the South region. That was where you wanted to go, in the sense of possibilities of Dallas, right? That's just what it comes down to. You're on the opposite side of the bracket of Houston. Now you do have Duke and you have Marquette. That's tough. Let's just call a spade there. But when you look at it from the perspective of Texas Tech and what they got for that 11 matchup, again, NC State was an 11 seed in the ACC tournament. They won the tournament, rightfully so. They got hot as hell. They're a good team. A little inconsistent. That's really what really did them in to get the 11 seed in the ACC. But now they're an 11 seed in the NCAA tournament. Okay, so good team. Probably one of the better draws you could have gotten if you're Texas Tech. Joseph asked, will Williams be ready to play? According to Grant McCaslin, the answer is yes. Grant McCaslin answered that after the Houston loss up in Kansas City, that Darion tried to give it a go, but he said and answered the reporter's question straight up, which is obviously great to hear, that he should be ready to go. So there you have it. And again, Texas Tech, they will that's an interesting one, man. I'm telling you, you could face a team like New Mexico, and I keep going back to them, and rightfully so to some degree. I think New Mexico's a really good team, and I want no business playing them, and you won't have to, I guess, unless you make the championship game. Other teams I worry about as well. But from the perspective of Texas Tech and being a 6 and having to play an 11, all right, this is probably best case scenario. Hold on 1 second. Let me update this name real quick. Let's see. It's in Pittsburgh. Just updating the name here. There we go. All right. Got time for a few more questions. About to go research NC State and get that video preview ready for you guys in terms of the game preview. And then don't forget, hey, subscribe over on YouTube. We'll have a live scoreboard, interactive scoreboard. I'll be doing play-by-play. Austin Massey will be joining me to do the color commentary. And also take a look around the first day of the NCAA tournament where your Red Raiders will be playing. Once again, it feels good to be back in there if you're a Texas Tech fan, in the sense of first year Grant McCaslin, you're a 6 seed, and you face off against the Wolfpack of NC State on Thursday. TBD on the time, unless somebody wants to correct me on that. I have not seen the time. I would love to be corrected if someone would love to do that. All I've seen is they're in. They have not announced the times yet. Blake just asked, with no Washington, how do we stop Barnes? Yeah, I mean, Barnes is a really good player, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in the preview video. But my initial thought was, again, go small ball. You want to see Barnes on the outside on the perimeter trying to guard somebody if you're NC State? I don't think so. And the best lineup for Texas Tech is their small ball lineup. It really is. So I'll definitely talk about that more in depth. Blake, I'm glad you brought it up because he is a really good player. They have a really solid front court, but I think Texas Tech's front court is playing a little bit better than people give them credit for, in the sense of what Robert Jennings and Ameli Olahu have done. Are they superstars? No, but they do enough to help you win basketball games and do the little things up in the front court. And then if you sprinkle in little bit of Warren Washington, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, you have to feel a little bit better if you're Texas Tech. And I think that that's a real possibility. Nothing for certain yet, but I think it's a real possibility. On the Darion side, I think he'll be back. You got to trust Grant McCaslin for his word and what he said up in Kansas City. I think he plays against NC State up in Pittsburgh. But it will be very, very interesting to see how limited he is, if at all, for Darion, and how much you could potentially get from Warren. But NC State, one of the hottest teams in America, if not the hottest team in America. Again, they won all 5 games they played last week. That's nuts. And now they're in the NCAA tournament as an 11 seed after being the ACC's 11 seed in their own tournament. You love a Cinderella run, but if you're a Texas Tech fan, you're hoping the shoe stops fitting or doesn't fit, I guess I should say, when it comes to the actual NCAA tournament. And they're done after that. But I'm going to wrap it up there. I appreciate everybody coming to hang out with me, spending this past hour and a half discussing Texas Tech basketball, being back in the NCAA tournament. One of the largest spaces I've done on Twitter, one of the largest crowds I've had on YouTube as well. We have 2,600 people in here right now. Seriously appreciate each and every one of y'all spending some of your Sunday evening now with me and knowing that your Red Raiders are back in the NCAA tournament as a 6th seed up in Pittsburgh. They'll face off against the Wolfpack of NC State on Thursday, and the Red Raiders return to the NCAA tournament. One more time, if you haven't already, be sure to head on over to Scarlet and Black Insider. The info's right there on your screen, scarletandblackinsider.com. The first month is $1 if you use the promo code SBI. There's no better time to join than right now, okay? We have one of the most engaging message boards there is. We're going to keep you up to date when it comes to everything going on for injuries for Texas Tech going into their game against NC State. And oh, by the way, we've already got some portal news on there as well. So if you want to stay up to date on everything Texas Tech men's basketball, the Scarlet and Black Insider is the place to do it. And the best part about it, your first month is $1. And it's March Madness. This is the time to get involved with it. And if you haven't followed me on Twitter, be sure to do so. Retweet the video, like the video. And then if you're watching on YouTube, which I know quite a few of you are right now, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell and like the video. And one more thing. Be sure to come join us on Thursday. Me and Austin Massey. I'll be doing play-by-play for the Texas Tech game. He'll be keeping you up to date on everything going on in terms of the rest of March Madness. We'll have a scoreboard at the bottom. We'll have the Texas Tech score right there in the middle for you and keeping you up to date on everything Texas Tech. So again, appreciate y'all tuning in. Over 2,600 of y'all now. It's still climbing. My goodness. I would stay live for a little bit longer, but I'm parched and I'm hungry. But I appreciate each and every one of y'all for tuning in. I'm R.C. Maxfield, reminding you, if you want to stay in the know on Texas Tech men's basketball all year long, it's really easy to do. All you got to do is follow me on Twitter and hit that subscribe button over on YouTube for the Back to 12 podcast channel.